Hello and welcome to TNWKS, the Now We Know show, the show where we discuss a topic of interest and by the end we will have learnt something new and hopefully you will too. I'm Zak.
I'm Buzz.
And I'm Chris.
Yes, we have Chris in the studio this week, who is our steampunk expert, because that's what we're going to be covering this week, ladies and gentlemen. Everything and anything you want to find out about steampunk.
If you enjoy the Now We Know Show podcast, support Zak Wylde Productions on Patreon or join our members on YouTube for early access, ad-free content and exclusive episodes.
So before we get into steampunk, it's time for, you guessed it,
Weird and wonderful. Wow, Chris joined in perfectly there.
He gets gold stars for that.
Yeah, it was almost like a barbershop quartet, although there's only three of us.
I mean, how many do you need for a barbershop quartet?
Four? there's a clue in the...
Oh, quartet. I thought it was just a okay.
What would be three then?
A barbershop
I don't know. I don't even know if they do. Do they do those? I don't know. Anyway, it's Weird and Wonderful time. So I'm bringing the Weird and Wonderful in this week. It's my turn. And this week, I wanted to get something that was up to date. So this is a recently published Weird and Wonderful story that came out this week. A Bigfoot hunter allegedly stumbled upon monster 9-inch footprints in a Virginia woods. Wow. How about that? Facebook user Chuck Headley took to the Bigfoot Believers page on November 24th to share photos showing giant humanoid footprints he allegedly stumbled upon in Ritchie County, West Virginia. The photos show giant footprints imprinted in mud close to a pool of water. It suggested that a massive humanoid creature waded out of the water and left footprints on the muddy ground. The footprints have 5 toes, and a measuring tape placed across the prints shows it's 9 inches wide below the toes.
That's pretty big.
Yeah.
Pretty big.
The prints sparked discussions on Bigfoot Believers page. Some users expressed skepticism while others thought they were genuine. Many skeptics pointed out that all the photos showed only one print.
Oh, okay, not like a trail.
Maybe it's one-footed.
There you go. You see, it was commented,
Bigfoot.
why is it always only one print? It said, one step. Can they fly? A skeptic commented sarcastically. Some joked in response, saying that Sasquatch have wings. It flies or goes interdimensional after imprinting one footprint in the mud. And others suggested, tongue-in-cheek, that cryptozoologists named it Bigfoot instead of Big Feet because it only has one leg.
That does it.
I mean, we've talked about Bigfoot before, but having wings is a new one.
I don't recall anything that said they had wings.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes. Furthermore, it said, why is there always only one footprint, someone asked. What? Bigfoot only hops on one foot and then lands a mile away? However, some believers denied that the photos showed the same footprint. No, it's a picture of one print. There are lots of others, a user said.
So, Chris, do you believe in Bigfoot?
There's the picture.
I'm
going
to have to count myself amongst the skeptics on this one.
Okay.
There's the muddy picture of the print.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, that's...
Well, maybe the puddle is disguising it more, you know.
I don't know.
I've got to say, that definitely looks like a footprint in mud.
Yes, well, there you go. So it's yet another Bigfoot sighting, or is it not Big Feet? Bigfoot.
Well,
we're going to have to run this past our Sasquatch specialist.
Yes, Glenn Sharp.
Yes. So you're a bit of a skeptic.
I am, I'm afraid. Yeah, I think. I can't see too many things wandering around the woods. Maybe Homer Simpson, perhaps.
Maybe it could be Homer's foot. But anyway, so that's my Weird and Wonderful. Yet another up-to-date Sasquatch spotting for those squatchers out there. Huzzah! It's time for a little bit of, would I be correct in saying Imperial Empire style?
Adventuring.
In
the Dirigibles of old.
Dirigibles. We want to know all about steampunk, and that's why we've brought our specialist, Chris Banks, into the studio.
No pressure.
No pressure here.
Oh, good.
But I've got to say, you are in rather a dapper outfit.
Crikey.
So for our listeners, would you like to describe your outfit?
Well, I'm sure they've seen the thumbnail. But I'm in a red coat with green facings. It's based on a genuine Victorian military uniform. I've got the single epaulette in silver, indicating I'm an infantry officer, fairly junior.
I notice you have a badge there.
Oh yes, this is where things start going a bit steampunky. I have here what some people would recognise as a badge from Girl Genius, which is a webcomic, very much in the steampunk genre. And there are various sort of T badges.
Yes, I noticed there's another one on your shoulder, which looks like
First
a cup with a T on it.
Yes.
Okay, what is steampunk? Because you're dressed in this wonderful outfit, not forgetting the fact that you're also wearing
my Wolsey, Wolsey pith helmet.
So your pith helmet.
And of course the ubiquitous goggles.
Which,
oh yes.
I believe you can't be into steampunk unless you have, or at least own a pair of goggles.
That tends to be one of the jokes told, and to be fair, there's a lot of truth in that. Goggles and cogs.
I'm going to jump in and I'm going to guess that steampunk maybe means different things to different people. So, in your own words, how would you sum up steampunk to our listeners?
Steampunk is generally, and as you say, there are lots of views on this, but it's generally taken as a Victoriana, so the Victorian period. So yes, a bit of, as you said, the Empire, but also obviously what Germany and other countries.
So this is that period, but you could say worldwide, yeah.
Yes, so in America there's quite a lot of Wild West influence, because obviously that's going on at the same time. But across that sort of historical period, there's, if you like, weird science. There's what we were actually doing, but as it were, turned up to 11 or maybe even 12. So you've got steam engines. Obviously the Victorians had steam engines, but, you know, think of much better steam engines. So rather than a steam engine that can push a heavy locomotive across, imagine it pushing a Zeppelin around the planet at high speed.
Right. Okay.
So you've got that sort of science plus, which makes it steampunk rather than just Victorian.
So does steampunk kind of like sit in its own fantasy world, so to speak?
Yes, I think that's pretty fair. It's a sort of alternative reality if things had developed differently or more
right,
so.
So if we hadn't gone into the internal combustion engine so much, if everything had been kind of based on steam and continued in a very radical way.
Well, that's a question. Is electricity a thing in steampunk?
Well, I think the jury's out on that, to be honest. I would say, well, yeah, sure, you can have electricity, you can have the electric light bulb. But others would say, well, aren't you drifting into diesel punk there? Which is sort of a later period.
That is another question I've got down. So since you mentioned it, let's bring that question up. As well as steampunk, are there other types of, for want of a better word, punks?
Oh, yes. It starts with the cyberpunk genre, which I suppose a lot of people would associate with things like Blade Runner, the film. It's quite that sort of thing.
Very futuristic.
Yeah, and the sort of William Gibson books, Neuromancer and things like that. Okay. And then from that term, cyberpunk, people sort of coined steampunk as being a sort of an earlier genre. So cyberpunk comes on first, and steampunk kind of gets its name from a sort of earlier, just an early historical period.
And then you mentioned diesel punk.
Diesel punk. It's whether it's part of steampunk or not is kind of a matter of personal opinion.
I kind of think there would be a bit of a crossover there. Sure.
I think there is, and I think where you draw the line is very much personal opinion of how far you push technology. Some people say, internal combustion engines. No, that's not steampunk. Others don't take that hard a line. I'm quite relaxed, to be honest.
I think I've seen, from when I've done a little bit of research into this, and I've looked at people at steampunk gatherings, there seems to be a lot of very kind of luminescent lights and things in their kits, in backpacks and things. So I kind of would imagine there must be some kind of electricity going on there. A lot of valves.
Maybe
a lot of steam valves.
Could it be like electricity generated through?
I noticed crystals as well were a thing.
Well, Tesla coils are definitely a steampunk thing. So if you think of Nikola Tesla and all that sort of big, classic sort of Frankenstein sort of arcing electricity. That's really steampunk.
Like Van Helsing type stuff.
Van Helsing.
Yeah, big switches with lots of arcing electricity.
Oh, my creation!
Big.
It lives. It's alive.
Sparks everywhere.
But I mean, some people might balk at that, but I think that's pretty much in part of steampunk. It's and certainly, as you say, you see a lot of people with a sort of little mini Gauss type or Gauss balls and things like that that sort of decorate.
They're the ones that the type that you touch and the plasma inside reacts.
So they're the ones that make your hair stick up.
No, that's that's a
Van de Graaff.
Van de Graaff machine. Yes, but who knows? Maybe there's a steampunker out there who actually has a Van de Graaff machine backpack.
Well,
when you touch him or her, your hair stands on end. Anyway,
I've certainly seen Van de Graaff generators.
So
steampunk
here you are, Chris. You obviously you've defined kind of what steampunk is in general to you, and you've got this wonderful outfit that you're wearing.
Yeah.
So what is it that got you into steampunk?
That's a good question, actually.
It is.
Did you just wake up one morning and say,
"Oh yes, I want to
buy a dirigible"? And
who doesn't? Who wouldn't want a Zeppelin of go their own? No, I think for me it's the steam engines. I've always been interested in things like when you go to the Science Museum or Cuba Steam Museum, and you see all these wonderful, intricate mechanisms designed to sort of pump or machine metal or things like that. And it's that sort of era where really tools that you used had a nice aesthetic.
Yeah, I can see what you mean.
Brass
not just built for the job, not just built for the job,
and not just built to be thrown away.
They were also kind of, as you say, they had an aesthetic look about them. They were almost sculptures, in their own right,
like a marvel to the eye.
Yes. And I think that sort of life, in the same way, the lifestyle is the one that attracts people. It's the I say Victoriana, but obviously. Nobody really wants to dwell on colonial oppression, urchins falling into machinery, dysentery,
children being sent up chimneys and things.
It's more everyone being very nice to each other. There's the being of equality and that sort of thing. And within the steampunk community, that is also something that is very prevalent. People are welcome, and
so it's all very much ladies and gentlemen and being polite to each other.
Yes. And even engineers are treated with respect in the same way.
It has to be pointed out to our listeners. That's because you are an engineer.
I am an engineer. Yes. So So if you think go back to the world of Isambard Kingdom Brunel, where an engineer was judged by the length of his beard and his steely expression.
Right. Well, in that case, I win in the studio.
I mean,
you do. That is an impressive beard.
It's a manly beard. Just refer to me as. The bearded one.
Okay.
Anyway, so so you've kind of obviously seen steampunk at some point, and it's attracted you to do it. So if you are somebody who is into steampunk, what is it that you do? I mean, how do you express this? Is it? I suppose you called it a hobby.
I think it is. I think it's a LARPing type thing. I think
right. So it's the same as kind of cosplay, then, yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of similarity. So people can get together. They'll just chat about whatever. There are various things you can do.
But so they have events around that you can get.
Oh yes, there's a number around the country every year that happen regularly. So there's a meeting at a place called the Asylum near Lincoln.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Which is annual. There's also the annual Steampunks in Space gathering, which is at the Leicester Space Centre.
Wasn't there one in Peterborough? Peterborough?
Yeah, possibly. A couple of years ago, I think we came across that.
Yeah.
And isn't there a very big one at Whitby?
Yes, there is. I think.
Because I think Whitby is also very much known for goths as well.
Yes,
because they have a goth meet, sort of meet there. So they're now steampunk as well. I think there might be a bit of a crossover there, wouldn't you think, between goth and steampunk?
I would imagine there are people who are interested in both. Yeah, and there are people who are.
And so anyway, so you've decided to go to one of these events. Again, what would people thinking about maybe getting into steampunk? What would you expect to see or do at an event? I assume there may be market stalls and things.
There is. I mean, you can get together and chat with like-minded individuals. Engage in interesting conversation. As you say, there's costume. You can get tips and ideas on what to do. People tend to be very friendly. So if you sort of say, "Oh, I'm looking to do, some sort of cosmetic arm or something in leather work," you'll get people there who'll be able to give you advice and tips. There's things you can buy off the shelf if you're not as crafty.
Because it's a very specialised market, isn't
so
it?
If you're not if you're a person who wants to do it, but maybe is not, as you say, crafty in the sense that you have the time or the ability to put your own costume together, you can compile a costume by going to an event and picking bits up.
Absolutely.
Right.
And perhaps unlike a lot of reenactment societies, where you're doing a historical period, clearly when you're getting into it, your equipment might not be that good. It might not be that representative. In some groups, that's a turn off. They'll say no.
Because when you're trying to be historically correct,
yeah, because of the need to be historically correct, particularly if you're doing a display for the general public. With something like Steampunk, there is no historical basis. It goes out the window. So if you come along dressed in something, people will appreciate...
You're kind of limited only by your imagination.
So people appreciate the effort you've made, and you'll get more.
Kind of brings me into something else. Does that mean that when you go to an event, do you go to the event as yourself, or do you actually also, as well as wearing the costume, develop your own personas?
You can do. Personally, not particularly. But, you can come up with a different name if you want and come up with a historical background, or you can just go as yourself.
So I'm going to ask, Chris, you're standing in front of us. Would you call yourself, have you got a steampunk name for your costume you're wearing?
I have occasionally gone by Wymanley Todd Hunter Brown, I think was the name.
Wymanley Todd Hunter Brown.
It's a little bit better.
I think everybody's got to have kind of double barrel names, have they?
Yeah, it's not required.
Not required, but it sounds good.
A lot of people do, or an interesting middle name as well. Because like Isambard Kingdom Brunel, you don't call him Isambard Brunel, do you?
I suppose the thing is, you could probably, you can have, if you're going to have a character, you don't have to be just stuck with that one character, because I presume you can have several different costumes, or decide what or who in the steampunk universe you want to be.
Yeah, you can turn as different people in different times if you wish, or as I say, nobody. If having an alternative persona is not for you, don't let that put you off. It's not required in any way. Going on the sort of things you might see, we've got various things like duelling.
That's interesting.
Music.
Duelling.
Duelling.
Duelling. Okay. Well, let's just stop there. Let's just find out what on earth is duelling.
Well, obviously, in a lot of historical societies, you'll have duelling with swords, etc.
But Zak and I are very much used to that.
Yeah, we can do that.
I know you have swung a sword occasionally in the past.
Maybe once in a while.
Obviously, being fine Victorian ladies and gentlemen, we can't be doing with any of that sort of thing.
Right.
Old boy. So instead, we'd need to settle our differences in a more gentlemanly, a more civilised way.
More civilised.
So duelling is one of the ways that one can settle disputes, or just compete in a sort of...
So it is an actual...
It is an actual...
Would you call it a sport?
I think sport might be pushing it, but it's certainly a competition.
Does it have rules?
It does.
Right. Okay. So it's actually formulated that there is a
set of rules. I think the rules can vary a little bit depending on where you are.
Have you done duelling?
I have taken part in duelling.
Can you teach us and our listeners a little bit about what's involved?
Well, it's very simple. As you might imagine, it does involve tea.
Right. Okay.
And indeed biscuits.
You need to make notes of this.
Well, you can find it on the web.
Okay.
Now, some groups will have a restriction on which biscuits you have to use. Others are more liberal. Okay. But generally, everyone there will be a plate of biscuits, and everyone chooses, and it will be all the same.
So if you were having to describe this, how do our duellers, how do they set up?
So you've been invited to a tea duel. What can you expect? Well, firstly, you'll be invited to shake the hand of your opponent, because obviously we're all friends here, so if you like to shake each other's hands.
Oh, hello. Hello, the bearded one. I'm Zak.
Hello, Zak. I am the bearded one. It's been a pleasure to meet you, sir.
Bravo. Would you like to duel?
Yes, let us duel. Best man win. What?
Otto. Oh, excellent attitude.
We're
very good. Very getting into it there. So you then be invited by the tea master, and I'll take the role of the tea master.
Hello, tea master.
Who will invite you to sit down, facing each other across a small table.
Right.
I'll squat a bit.
You squat.
Yeah.
I'll just stand in the doorway of the dungeon.
I'll have a plate of biscuits.
Okay.
And we'll say as the younger man will give Zak the first choice of 6 biscuits on a plate, and he will choose his biscuit.
What an interesting selection.
Some people, they'll all be the same.
All the same.
Otherwise, it would be unfair. What if you had a Garibaldi And I had a rich tea. That
Yeah,
wouldn't
that
be fair
was-
at all. The
that would never
Garibaldi would
do.
be glued together with its raisins.
That's the sort of thing that they might do in France, but obviously
Oh, God.
we wouldn't do that.
not
the French.
Not in English.
Something
England.
like rich tea, should we say, maybe even a custard cream.
Ah.
So you'll choose your
Cream.
biscuit.
All right,
I do like
You've
custard
tweaked my
creams.
interest in
Okay.
custard cream.
The remaining 5 will be offered to you. And
Oh,
you'll take,
and I eat
your-
them?
No, you're
I
just
don't
take,
eat
you don't eat the biscuits yet.
Oh, I don't need the biscuit.
I have a biscuit.
Okay.
Okay,
And I have my biscuit.
Okay,
Or
and then
counter
I'll-
biscuit.
Do we fight with the biscuits?
No, you don't.
Oh,
Well, not directly.
Stab you with a biscuit.
So I should crumble it into
I feel
your eye.
ungentlemanly conduct is entering the room. I have to ask you to come.
Okay.
Down.
So, it's very exciting.
That's what the Tea Master's for. That's what the Tea Master is
Indeed,
for.
indeed. So I will make sure that in front of you I put 2 identical cups of tea at the same
Are
temperature.
these in China cups?
Of course.
Not a mug.
A mug.
I say.
Wash your mouth.
We're not builders.
Yes, you'll be excluded if you start saying that. No, thrown out of the competition. Anyway, so on command, you will hold your biscuit over the tea.
Okay.
So that will be
Heard
present.
that. I'm presenting my virtual biscuit.
And then on the command, you'll be given dunk.
Okay.
And you will dunk your biscuit
We're
into
dunked.
in a smooth, immediate motion and no hesitation.
Okay.
And after 5 seconds, I'll say withdraw, and you can take your biscuit out. Now, you will hold your biscuit as long as you'd like until you
Does
are
it
confident.
Is that
dangling
dangling
down?
or
It's totally
horizontal?
up to you. Some people say dangling, some people say
Vertical.
face up.
Ooh,
It's
that's-
face holding it upwards.
I'm assuming it's getting rather soggy at this
It
point.
is. It is. The thing is, to win, you have to eat your biscuit after your opponent. So it's a kind of brinksmanship.
Okay.
Who's going to? Because obviously your biscuit is getting softer.
Yeah, you don't
and
want it
starting
to
disintegrate.
fall over, do you?
And if it does fall over, if it breaks before you eat it,
Yeah.
then I'm afraid you've lost.
Oh, right.
Assuming your opponent eats his biscuit successfully and achieves what we call a clean nom.
Clean nom.
A clean nom, to eat the biscuit
Without-
without bits of it falling
Pour
off.
it into the
This is
beard.
amazing.
Or the beard, the beard.
I would
That might
get trapped
be-
in my beard.
What
What if it goes into the tea?
Oh,
Is that a disgrace?
that's just not acceptable.
Oh, dear.
No, that is still you've lost the competition. But I think that you might get ladies swooning.
Do you only get
so on.
like one go at the biscuit, or is
Well-
does it go to the best out of 3? Or?
It can go to the best out of 3. It very much depends on local conditions. So if maybe you're the only 2 that want to duel, then you'll be maybe best of 3. If there's a competition, it might be a knockout, 1 biscuit, and the sudden death tournament.
Right.
as they
Ooh.
say.
Wow.
So yeah, there's that sort of thing. I believe there has been racing hats. That's been
Is
a
this
thing.
not to do with the tea?
This is moving on from
right. Moving on with the
Okay.
tea.
because we assume who won.
Zak won.
Yes!
Zak won.
Huzzah!
And after obviously
I got it stuck in my beard.
after
What was our disagreement about?
It really
I don't
doesn't
know.
matter.
Oh.
The important thing is it's been resolved, and you can both move on with
Good
a
day to you, sir.
with a hearty
Well
handshake.
won, sir. Well won.
Bravo!
And congratulations to the winner from the loser.
And I shall go off and find a cup of coffee.
I have victory.
Coffee.
Coffee.
That's not a thing.
Not a thing in steampunk, no.
Personally, I'm very tea focused.
Tea focused,
and
okay.
a lot of steampunk is tea focused. But
So
again,
what are your
opinions
feelings
vary.
in steampunk? What are your feelings over tea bags? Or does it have to be actual proper tea?
Should be proper tea.
Okay,
really.
okay.
I mean, in a teapot.
In a teapot.
Into a china.
So
china
this is a very important question now that's coming up. So pay attention.
Okay, I'm paying attention.
Milk first or after?
Ooh.
Now,
This sounds like a debate.
There was the great debate.
I was
In
gonna
fact,
say.
it was held at the asylum around the time of another big debate that was going on in the country. I forget what the other one was about now.
Oh, there's a lot of mass debates going on.
Sorry.
Steady.
Steady down.
Steady now. And there was a big debate over tea, milk first or milk last. Do you put your milk in first or last? And there were the 2 big camps on, and there was a big campaign. I think a guy called Dr. Jeff actually did a lot of the publicity for both sides,
Right.
because that will be gentlemanly anyway. So there was a big debate on it. I can't actually remember which side won.
Okay, so let's
it was quite-
leave it into the people present in this podcast.
Hmm.
So Zak, if you were drinking tea,
Well, to be honest, I don't drink tea. But I have made tea.
right? So when you've made tea, I'm taking. Have you learned this skill yourself, or have you been shown how to make tea?
I've kind of... I did learn it from somebody, but I've kind of put my own spin on it.
So do you put the milk in to the cup first, or do you put the milk in after you've poured the tea?
After.
See, I'm an after.
And I'm an after as well.
Well, there we go. So for our little test group here,
Yeah,
we're
milk
all
last 100%.
100%.
Thank
You
goodness.
put the milk in after.
That could have been
ladies and
disastrous.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there would have been a tea dueling moment coming on.
Yeah.
To decide. So you mentioned hat racing.
Yes, it's not something I've seen myself, to be fair, but I've heard reports of it, of motorised hats being run around.
Oh,
run
wow.
around a course.
That is
by-
not what I thought hat racing was going to be.
I thought it was just people sort of maybe doing a relay race and passing a hat on.
Oh, no, that wouldn't be gentleman. But although, now you mention it. So, yes, hat racing was another thing that might sort of thing. And, of course, there are other activities, none of which spring immediately.
Well,
to mind.
one
was
that
that?
came up, I came up.
You
But
go first.
I don't know if you can, if you've heard of this, Chris. Maybe you can explain what's an unrumble.
That was it, yeah. I
Is
think
that the one
I
you-
think that was the one I was talking about.
unrumble?
I've not heard of that.
Describe it, Buzz. Describe it.
Well, I believe that's why I just wondered if Chris could confirm this to me, that you'd have two opposing sides of
Yeah.
steampunkers, maybe in a street or wherever.
I think we did witness this at the Cambridge Steampunk Festival.
Is that where it's?
Yeah.
Right,
Do you remember
I have
that one
vague
that was
memories.
that kind of church?
And then
in the middle of
on a
nowhere?
given, I think it's quite somebody maybe drops a
Handkerchief or something. Yeah.
They rush at each other. You see, so both sides charge at each other,
Yeah.
and then when they get within distance,
Yes.
they all stop and shake hands and say, "Pleased to meet you, sir.
Pleased
Pleased to meet you. Hello, my lady," and things like that. It's called an unrumble.
Oh,
That's
right.
what I believe. So
I didn't get the name. That's what I was forgetting.
so you've not experienced an
I've
unrumble.
not experienced that. It
there's-
might be a Cambridgeshire tradition.
Ah, right.
Because
Unrumble.
obviously everybody has their own traditions depending on where
Right.
they are.
How interesting. So, just briefly going back to characters, if you are a person who wants to have a steampunk character, so they've got their own kind of persona, so when they're going to an event, they take on that mantle. What would your advice be? How would you build or design a character? There must be so many sort of areas in it, because obviously you've dressed as a military officer.
Indeed.
But I would think that you've got engineers. You mentioned engineers.
Yeah.
We've mentioned
Scientists.
dirigibles. I'm
Yeah.
thinking pilots and things like that.
Yeah.
How would somebody maybe develop a character theme?
I think it's got to be something you're interested in, that you maybe you secretly want to be. As you said, a Zeppelin pilot. I mean, who doesn't want to be a Zeppelin pilot?
Exactly.
I
Or
don't think I
possibly-
want to be a Zeppelin pilot if the Zeppelin catches fire.
Well, you see, this is the thing. I mean, in steampunk,
Right.
would Zeppelins catch fire?
Right, so they've
Or
been
would they
improved.
be filled
Yeah,
with
they've been
helium?
improved.
They've been improved. They're using helium now.
Yeah, and that's the sort of thing. I mean, the reality of the Victorian age is we've got steam engines that give a lot of smog out of the roofs, and we've got terrible pea super fogs. We've got Zeppelins catching fire and crashing into the ground left, right, and centre. And we've got things like the difference engine built by Charles Babbage that didn't quite work, or at least didn't work in the way that we'd hoped. Whereas in steampunk, all those problems can be
They've been fixed.
washed away, they can be fixed. So you've got your Zeppelins the way people envisage them, the liners of the sky where you can relax over tea and cake.
Have a nice
while being-
leisurely afternoon.
Yeah, while being whisked off to New York, above the clouds.
So really, character building is just
Yeah.
unlimited
so just
to your imagination. Really.
choose your
Choose-
thing. Are you a famous scientist, an inventor,
Right.
a pilot,
You say about
or even a pirate? Because
Oh,
of course,
like a
Bit
sky
pirate.
pirate.
sky pirates
Ooh.
are very much.
Ooh, I like that.
I have
a trope of
heard-
steampunk.
I have heard of things called sky krakens. Are they a thing?
I've not seen one myself, but that's probably because they eat everybody that they see.
Right. Okay.
But yes, I mean,
So
there
you
are,
get, do you, which leads me on. Do you get weird and wonderful creatures in the steampunk world as well?
Oh yes, you can do, and I have seen people wandering around with shoulder octopuses and things like that.
Oh, like a pet
Okay.
octopus.
I've not actually seen someone turn up with a 250-metre long sky kraken.
Is it
But maybe
kraken
Or kraken.
or kraken or
Oh, it's,
kraken?
it's a good question, actually. Good question.
It
I'd
needs
say-
to be
I'd
settled
say-
over some tea dueling.
Yes, maybe. I'd say kraken, but
Kraken. I don't know. Anyway, so with this whole idea of steampunk, are there things that have followed on from that? Have people started to write steampunk books? You've mentioned steampunk, I think you said music. I mean, what sort of things have taken on board steampunk? Are there such things?
Almost everything. I mean, there's an awful lot of books. A lot of people would say things like Jules Verne is the beginning of the steampunk ideology, or Frankenstein being...
also actual books that have actually been written and then adopted as being steampunk stories.
Yes. I mean, steampunk itself comes around in, I think, about 1950 to 60. But actually, a lot of books...
I felt that it was a more modern thing.
Well, it depends where you draw the line. But obviously, a lot of books written before that, even in the 1800s, have steampunk tendencies before the actual genre existed. So things like Captain Nemo, The Extraordinary Gentleman. Obviously Frankenstein, because it's
you mentioned the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Of course, they did the film.
They did, and I mean that is very
if you watch the film, steampunk. That's very steampunk looking.
It's got vampires, the Invisible Man, Dorian Gray and stuff.
Yes,
Dorian
Mr. Hyde
Gray.
even.
And Nemo.
Jekyll and Hyde.
Obviously,
so
the Nautilus, that would look very steampunky.
Oh yeah, well it's got all the necessary things: big rivets, brass, large sort of machinery. Yeah, and it doesn't quite exist in the
doesn't
world.
quite exist.
So, but it really should.
Well, when it comes to what we said, books and stories, going on to, we've just touched upon films. So, are there steampunk? Can we think of steampunk movies? Is there a steampunk genre of films?
Well,
I'm starting to think
of
a
League
few
of Extraordinary
now.
Gentlemen.
Well, I'm starting to think. I mean, would you classify things like Peter Cushing and was it Journey to the Centre of the Earth? With Doug McClure?
At Earth's Core.
Oh, At Earth's Core. That's it. Because I remember that one. It was a very much a big Victorian drilling machine, like a mole, but it was all deep buttoned in leather.
It was called the
inside.
Iron Mole.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think that
what
was
about the First Men in the Moon?
First
Men in the Moon?
Yeah.
With the anti-gravity paint.
That's it.
Anti-gravity paint. Oh, that's available from all good shops. So there's lots of things. I'm trying desperately to think of the name.
There's some more modern ones as well. There was one I saw.
Cities on Wheels.
Mortal Engines.
Mortal Engines. That's got huge steampunk sort of vibe to it. And there's also things like manga. So you've got Howl's Moving Castle.
I know that film,
which arguably the castle might not be considered steampunk, it's more medieval, but the world in which Howl's Moving Castle exists, where you've got Zeppelin bombers and fighters, you've got the big sort of pre-dreadnought battleships, that's a very much
reminds me of another
steampunk
one. So,
world.
was it Valley of the Wind or something?
Oh, Nausicaa, the Valley of the Wind.
Yeah, that's reminded me of that. And there are some more coming to mind. There was a modern one, which, didn't it star the actor who played Mr. Hyde in the League of
that was Forbidden Kingdom.
Forbidden Kingdom.
Yeah, that was a foreign film.
It was mostly dubbed, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But it was quite fascinating because he had a steampunk coach.
Yes.
And that had a follow-on recently, if I'm right. Well, I'm racking my brains here, with an Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jackie Chan movie, which was a follow-up one. Yeah. Was that called The Iron Mask?
The Iron Mask, yeah.
Oh, right. But I think the Man in the Iron Mask couldn't.
No, it was called The Iron Mask.
Oh, The Iron Mask.
That was actually quite bizarre.
It wasn't like marketed as a sequel to it, but we were very surprised.
They had references to that previous movie.
You stick the disc in, and you expected to see the title come up as The Iron Mask, but it actually said something to The Iron Mask, and I was like, oh. I remember that other one.
I'm sure there was flashbacks to the Forbidden Kingdom.
It follows the coach as well. It was a very bizarre movie
because obviously it's Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jackie Chan are the lead actors in it.
Yeah,
and
they're the most shown actors. But it was very much you were definitely smoking something. Whoever came up with that. Yeah, I mean I think they had a lot of Asian stuff as well. They had big boats that kind of went to secret islands, and they had Rutger Hauer was in it. I think that was Rutger Hauer's last movie.
Was he in there?
Yeah. We'll have to watch it again.
okay.
It was pretty out there.
So there,
it was
there is a genre of movies that would fall into the steampunk.
Yeah, or movies that have elements of steampunk, because again, it depends exactly what you describe as steampunk. Okay. I would say that a film like Sky Captain: The World of Tomorrow has a lot of steampunk elements.
Yes.
But a lot of people would go, well, it's more diesel punk.
Yeah, I'm seeing where you're coming from with that, because that kind of is, again, is big, bold rivets and big skies.
Or is diesel punk more kind of Mad Maxy, like apocalyptic?
No, I'd say that's more post-apocalyptic punk. Which is
that's a lot of peas. That's a lot of peas.
Yeah, but then within steampunk, you will get people wearing gas masks, which are, anachronistic really for the period, because there wasn't any gas weaponry, so why wear gas masks? Yeah. But then maybe in their bit of the steampunk,
because
people do.
A lot of steampunk people that I've seen do tend to like wearing facial masks of some sort or other, or half mask and things like that. And of course, the goggles.
Yeah, well, goggles.
So what about the music? I mean, we talked about books, we talked about films. What about the music? Are there specific steampunk bands or individuals?
Probably the best known is a guy called Professor Elemental, who actually does write sort of steampunk-based things about time-travelling trousers, stopping for tea.
I think
having a monkey butler called Gerald. No, Jeffrey.
Jeffrey. I think I have heard of time-travelling trousers or something like that. Yeah.
And tea trousers as well. And fighting trousers.
Fighting trousers.
That's the song, isn't it?
That's Fighting Trousers is one of his songs. Yes.
Fighting trousers.
Somebody is biting me. Pass me my fighting trousers.
Okay. Oh, well, that sounds fascinating.
Yes. So yes, there's a.
Have you seen?
I have seen him live, along with a guy called Mr. B, who is perhaps more chap hop, which is a completely different off the wall thing. But but again, he has maybe some of his songs could have a bit of steampunkiness about them, but only maybe peripherally. I would say Professor Elemental, probably your hardcore steampunk, musician. But he's certainly, both of them appeared at things like Steampunks in Space in Leicester, which is where I saw both of them performing.
Right.
So we've talked about steampunk music, steampunk films, but we haven't really talked about steampunk series. So would you classify Doctor Who as a steampunk series?
That's a good question. Straightforward for me. I'm going to jump in there, Chris. Peter Capaldi's Doctor.
The intro very steampunky.
Lots of cogs. Are they called cogs or gears? But there are lots of. I mentioned this because another engineer called, funny enough, I think you know Martin. He had a go at me in a polite way when I called them cogs, and he said, "They're cogs, they're gears." It's been an engineer.
What's the difference?
I don't know. But anyway, yes, that Peter Capaldi's Doctor Who had a lot of cogs in it and things. So yeah, that's a really good point. So is Doctor Who steampunk?
I mean, for me, Doctor Who is traditional old Who, which definitely isn't. But yeah, Peter Capaldi, I've heard that said by a lot of people that there is definitely a steampunk edge to Peter Capaldi.
So if we go back to classic Who,
I would say not.
But then you've got instances where you've kind of got it set in Victorian London with like Talons of Weng Chiang, and that's very steampunky.
It's very
in my
Victorian.
Opinion. Yeah, but it's.
I thought it was more of a play on Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah,
but then you do have the
it depends
technology.
Where you want to draw the line, really.
You do have the technology of
very good.
What's the bad guy's name in it?
Magnus
Greel. That's it. So yeah, you could sort of see tendencies there. I suppose it's anything that throws up where you've got something where you've got sort of like valves and things like that.
Valves, cogs, and goggles,
and pistons.
Oh yes,
pistons.
And what was that Series that you've been watching recently on Amazon?
That would be yes, Carnival Row.
Carnival Row, I would say, is definitely strongly steampunk.
And that's also got the kind of fantasy things as well.
Yeah, that's got a lot of fantasy.
There's all the sort of steam trains and
because that's got a lot of dirigibles in it.
Yeah,
and it's but it's also got a lot of fantasy creatures in there. So.
It is, and how much fantasy do you like in your steampunk? And again, that's another place where people will draw the line in different places. So I spoke about somebody having an octopus on their shoulder and walking around a show. Well, some people might think, that wouldn't be the sort of thing you do. And others will be totally fine with that, as I am. So if you want your elves and things like that, or your
is there steampunk snobbery?
I think there's differences of opinion. I don't think I'd push it as far as snobbery.
Do you get sort of cliques in steampunk? Is there people, you go to an event and maybe, that's like the upper crust of the steampunkers, and then we look down on the ones that are the casual steampunk.
It's not something I've encountered. I'm not. The trouble is, it's such a worldwide phenomenon, and there's things going on in America.
So you basically, generally, if you meet steampunkers, they're all a good crew.
I've not encountered anybody who was
any rogue elements.
Yeah, but unfortunately, with a big pastime or any big group, you're going to get the odd one.
Well, no, I can't mention it because over the years we've done so much, period reenactments that you do get this kind of very, very kind of your authenticity fascists sometimes.
Well, yeah.
And then you have other people that are much more easygoing, which use what's known as the 6 foot rule. Yeah. As long as you look authentic at 6 feet, it doesn't mean that your underpants have to be made out of wool.
No, because generally the general public won't see that.
Yeah, so
and again,
but you don't get that with the steampunk.
Well, no, because as we said earlier,
nobody's going to come up to you and say that uniform is incorrect. You've got the wrong buttons on it for that period jacket.
Absolutely, because there is no authenticity. As we said, if you're doing 14th century and you're wearing a 15th century helmet, that's clearly anachronistic and clearly wrong. And if you're trying to present 14th century, it's something that has things we know did and didn't occur in that period.
Right.
Steampunk, it's
completely
wide
ranging. The door is wide open.
It's got all the.
It could be like even said to be in like the future, the past, the present.
Well,
when would it occur?
It's interesting because I knowing that I was coming and doing this podcast, I asked a number of people around the company where I work today, what do you think of as steampunk? And that phrase, it's sort of the past with historical bits, came up several times. Most people mention Victorian sort of England. But that idea that, you've got sci-fi or better science than you should have in the period is very much a key part of it.
Well, so you kind of, if it's its own sort of split off timeline from Victorian, as if like, are you saying it's like if we hadn't taken the route that we did into the 20th century, that if it split off in its own timeline and developed its own technology, really heavily based on steam power, to bring it up to a futuristic. So it's because, as you said, Zak, it kind of has a feel of it that it is very much more futuristic than the time we live in at the moment in certain aspects.
Yes, because you get things like steam-powered spacecraft, and clearly,
well,
off to the moon.
You mentioned it with Doctor Who. As I kind of imagine, there's also sort of things like mad professors who also design time travel and things in it.
They're just misunderstood.
Well, you get people dressing up in like TARDIS themed steampunk costumes, don't you?
Yeah, and I've seen that. There's been cog powered K9.
I think I've seen a cog shaped or brass or copper R2D2.
Yeah. There's that.
I've seen that, and
it's kind of
so people are taking
themes and ideas from other things,
and of course that classic Doctor Who enemy, the Dalek. I've seen steampunk Dalek with brass and cogs, and I think it even had a monocle.
Nice.
What did it say?
Classy.
I'm going to exaggerate.
Exaggerate.
It wasn't. It was obviously asleep when I passed it. I wasn't saying anything, but yes, I wonder, old boy, if you wouldn't mind if I exterminate you, perhaps.
Would you like some tea?
Would you like some tea? They actually did that in Doctor Who.
They in Doctor Who with the Daleks.
Oh,
yes. They had them making tea for people in a World War II setting.
The green ones.
That's it.
The Ironside Daleks.
The Ironside Daleks.
They were fun. I like those.
That was actually quite fun, But with most Doctor Who, they cram it all into such a short little episode.
We're not going to go into the recent episodes of Doctor Who.
No, well, I'm old-fashioned, probably like you, Chris.
Yeah.
I like a one that leaves you on a cliffhanger.
Oh, absolutely.
And the story takes at least, minimum 2, but
Ideally
nice
4. Nice 4.
I mean,
4 episode arc.
6 is fine for me.
Oh, 6, yeah, 4 or more.
Cramming it into a 45 or a 50-minute episode to save the world.
It's unrealistic.
It's just
honestly
too much in one.
Even Flash Gordon took 48 hours to save the Earth.
There you go.
That's a good way.
That's a good way of putting it. I like that. That was really well done.
You could argue that Flash, going back into the 60s, Flash Gordon, Dan Dare, all have very much steampunk, mad science type.
I can see how these other areas like diesel punk, as you say, and cyberpunk probably all kind of clash.
Yeah,
I kind of like, so, oh no, that's more ours than yours.
Well, one of the artists who's very much famous in steampunk, a guy called Dr. Jeff Baynard, who's does some fantastic art. It does a lot of fake tattoos, posters for steampunk. Actually, I think it was Dr. Jeff who did all the T first, T last. I may have misattributed that earlier. But he did a great cartoon once where he had somebody at big steampunk convention today, and this guy sitting at the door waiting for people. And as people came up to him, he'd be going, "No, you're diesel punk, go away. No, you're gothic romance, go away. No, you're West cyberpunk, go away." And at the end of it, he's left there standing on his own, going, "I'm lonely." so it's really quite well observed. I think you can get that. I think people are less exclusive than that, but you do get people go, "Oh, no, steampunk is this or steampunk is that," and they can be quite specific about what it is for them.
I was just thinking, you took me back to Buster Crab in the original Flash Gordon, the black and white ones.
Oh yes,
with the ships going with the sparkler out the back.
And of course all the brass riveting and struts and everything else.
That's fantastic. Well, steampunk. That's certainly says it tweaked your.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Interest, Zach. Yeah, yeah. So I have to start thinking on character development.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Maybe something, a velvet jacket of some kind.
Well,
a velvet jacket.
Yeah, some rich colours.
Yeah, in purple, of course.
I think I have a hankering towards a circus, maybe.
A circus.
Yeah. Circus. Maybe a ringmaster.
What would be in that particular circus?
Oh, I don't know. I'll have to think about it. Maybe for another podcast. Right. We've now come to the section where it's our 6 quick-fire questions for our special guest. Are you prepared to answer the 6 quick-fire questions?
You're going to be get shot at and you have to dodge the questions.
All right. Well, I'm as prepared as I'm going to be.
Okay. Here we go. 6 quick-fire questions. Okay, question number 1. What is your favourite part of steampunk?
Oh, the machinery, the steam engines, things like that. Undoubtedly.
There we go. Question 2. What's your favourite steampunk movie? We've kind of touched upon these things.
Ooh, movie?
Yes, if you had to choose a movie.
Well, I sort of said Sky Captain the World Tomorrow, but obviously we did say that might be more diesel punk. So I'm going to go with... name's gone again.
Come on, you can think of
it. The one with the cities travelling around.
Mortal Engines.
Mortal Engines.
Nice
one. Right. Question number 3. If you could own anything from the fantasy world of steampunk, what would it be?
Oh, as I've already alluded to several times, who doesn't want a Zeppelin?
You want a Zeppelin?
Yeah, who doesn't want a Zeppelin?
That's going to look good parked over your house in Stevenage.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's, just fix it to the chimney. It'll be fine.
Where would you go on a trip with it first?
First trip? Oh, I think I'd just have a fly over the area, see the view from above, maybe nip down to Wiltshire and see my parents.
You wouldn't fly over Cardington hangers and stick your fingers up at the...
Oh, no.
Look at my Zeppelin!
No, when you just wave nonchalantly. There's no need for adversarialness in this. We're not competing.
Drop your biscuit crumbs on them.
Sadly, Airlander isn't
the flying anymore. Bottom.
Indeed.
Is it not?
No, it's they've moved up to Yorkshire, I believe.
Oh, they've moved it. Because that was the thing. Cardington hangers, as well as being obviously film studio set, it was famous in recent years for the Airlander. So.
Yeah, I think they've still got people in Bedford, but I think they've moved it up to Yorkshire for the production facility. Okay. But so you never know, I might be able to get an Airlander yet.
Which brings me on to question number 4. Have you ever been in a real airship?
So, you mean a lighter than airship?
Well, I've just put airship. So
Okay, I mean, I've been in aircraft, obviously. Yeah. Or not obviously, but I have. I have been up in a balloon.
You've been in
a balloon.
A balloon is...
Yeah, that's...
That's an airship, isn't it?
And it flies through the air.
Exactly. So yes, you have.
Yes, yeah, and that was quite fun. And that does give you... I mean, it's when you're up there and it is very quiet. Mm-hmm. And you get that, there's no sort of the drone of the engine, you're just drifting along.
And every so often do you get
Yes.
Where is that?
Otherwise you come down.
Remember, it's not the fall that kills you, it's the landing.
It's the landing, yeah.
Is it? Okay, question number 5. If rocket boots were real, would you own some?
I might not. I spend a lot of time indoors, and I can see the prospect of some very nasty accidents. If they went off and you were in a low ceiling building.
I mean, how would they be activated? That's the question. Is there a button? Click your heels like Dorothy?
Hey, I'm off to Kansas.
How they power? They're not like Teslas. They're not really catching fire all over the place.
I have no idea. You'll have to invent some in the steampunk world.
Okay.
Rocket boots. I just thought rocket boots was a good question.
Yeah.
Sorry, don't blame me.
Yeah.
Okay. Question number 6. Malted milk or rich tea?
Malted milk.
You're for the moose. Is that what they're called, moose?
Moose?
Well, I suppose they do have cows on them.
Because they
yeah,
okay. That makes sense.
Malted milk. I'm sure people call them moose.
Cow biscuits, really.
Cow biscuits.
You're a malted milk man. So, thank you for answering your quickfire 6 questions. Wonderful.
You're most welcome.
But before we finish, we have the Hat of Mystery.
The magical mystery hat.
So, which is quite steampunky in a way. You did mention the talons of Wing Chiang, and so out comes the Deerstalker.
I was going to say it's much more of a Sherlock Holmes.
Topics from previous episodes.
This is believed to once have been owned and worn by Sherlock Holmes himself.
Yes.
So, we have in here some, what do you call them, Zach?
Bits of paper.
Yes, bits of paper. It's very, very, very technical. We have some very technical bits of paper in the Deerstalker, and as our special guest, Chris, we would like you to delve in there and choose one at random.
So this will be to choose the topic for our exclusive episode that will be available to our patrons and YouTube members,
where we talk about a previous episode and sort of sum up things since then.
Maybe develop.
Yes. So what have we got?
We've got Episode 6, Adventure.
No, not adventure game, not adventure game. No, Chris, no. Why would you do this to me?
Adventure game.
Why would you do this to me, Chris?
Thank you, Chris.
We were friends.
Is that the old TV series, The Adventure Game?
No,
I don't know.
I know the adventure game. He wouldn't remember the adventure game. The Aspidistra.
That's the one. Grandfather.
Yeah, I used to love that.
Oh, no.
Now, this one was where we trialled a podcast doing, the old adventure games you used to get on something like the Spectrum and things, where you just literally get one line of writing. It says, you travel down a road, you get to a crossroads. Do you turn east or west?
Yes, almost a fighting fantasy game. But
that's it. So we thought we'd do that on which episode was that? Episode 6.
Episode 6.
Wow, that was a long time ago.
Have you heard of Escape the Dark Room?
Escape the Dark Room?
No, I haven't.
I've heard of Escape the Dungeon Sound Studio.
Yeah, I'd like to escape the Dungeon Sound Studio right now.
I can see it in your face. Episode 6 didn't go very well.
Oh, right.
Not for me.
Not for the in the hat.
Wait, who's in charge of the hat? Who's in charge of this hat?
So I'm going to look forward to talking about that one.
Oh, of course you are.
Yeah, so there we go. That's for our exclusive episode.
Did you win?
Did I win?
No, he was the dungeon master or whatever you'd call it.
Oh, right, okay.
But
I think you had a computer for that. That's
dear.
Just don't mention nubbly
women. Stop it.
Not the nubbly women.
Out of context, it doesn't make any sense.
No, we'll discuss it in the exclusive.
Why have you done this to me?
Thank you for coming to the studio and explaining to us all about steampunk.
Yes.
I'm sure there's probably much, much more that we haven't covered. And would you like to come back again in a further episode? Might not be about steampunk. You might want to tell us about some other specialised subject of yours.
Oh, yeah, I'd love to come back. It's been great. Thanks very much for having me.
Well, you did say you wanted to do another cheese.
Yes, we discovered this.
You're a bit jealous.
Into the studio, we discovered you're a bit of a cheese man.
I do like a bit of cheese from now.
Right, so I think there may well be another cheese tasting on.
Apparently, only 14 cheeses is
is not enough.
Not enough.
Well, we had planned on
there are
6.
so many more.
We had planned on 6.
6? 6, that's an evening's cheese eating. I mean, that's not
It turned out to be 14, and now I'm being told that 14
is not enough.
Is not enough.
Not to be the ultimate cheese tasting.
Okay. In that case, you've got an invite to another cheese session.
Excellent.
You'll have to bring some cheese.
I was going to say, shall I bring the crackers? But maybe I can
both.
Look out for some cheese.
Well, or maybe it could be a cracker tasting, but we just have cheese.
Cheese to complement the crackers.
Yeah.
Maybe.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please like and subscribe to this channel and comment below any suggestions of topics or activities you'd like to listen to in future episodes. That's a big Dirigible goodbye from Zak.
That's a what, old bean? Enjoy your tea. Goodbye from Buzz.
That's a splendid good day to you, sir, from Chris.
Goodbye.
You can find the Now We Know Show podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Music and Apple Podcasts. Keep up to date with everything ZWP on Facebook and Instagram, or visit the Zak Wylde Productions website at www.zakwyldeproductions.com. And remember to join us on Patreon or become a YouTube member for early access content and exclusive episodes.